Hey, we got a great show coming up here today on the Volquest podcast, but before we jump down into it, do want to remind you guys we have the best sale of the year happening right now at Volquest.com. It's literally going to end at the end of this day, so you need to take advantage of this right now. If you're watching on YouTube, you see it. It is 50% off annual memberships. 50% off annual memberships. That it's not going to ever be better than that right now, but it ends after today. It ends first Wednesday. So take advantage of this right now. Put in that promo code Kickoff24. When you go to sign up for the website, when you go to join, put in the promo code Kickoff24. Kickoff24, that promo code, and you're going to get 50% off annual memberships at Volquest.com. No better time to link up with us than right now at the start of the football season at Volquest.com. Hey, good Tuesday morning, everybody. Welcome into Game Week here at Volquest.com. I'm Eric Kane alongside Austin Price, Rob Lewis, and Brent Hubbs. As always, a big time thank you to our friends, our presenting sponsor of the Volquest podcast. That is Exterior Home Solutions. They've been local and trusted since 1999. If you have a need for roofing, siding, garage, anything exterior, home repair, or renovation, contact Exterior Home Solutions today. That phone number is 865-524-5888 or online at exteriorhomesolutions.com. We have finally made it to football game week. Tennessee plays Chattanooga on Saturday, 12:45 on the SEC Network. Of course, we'll have game week coverage leading up to kickoff, during kickoff, and plenty of stuff to break down after the game is over. But I wanted to present kind of a question for you guys, and Brent and Austin and I, we kind of spoke on it on the rewind the other night. So, Rob, let's start with you. For Tennessee against Chattanooga, what is successful for Tennessee in this game?
Man, I think it's just, more than, 600 yards of offense or 70 points. I think it's just, playing, somewhat clean, with your first unit guys. Just look efficient, know what you're doing. We all think Nico's going to be great, but, still, go out there and look good in the operations, take care of the little things. And, big plays. I think, fans want to see some fireworks that with Nico moving in with all the talk about the receivers and, big playability. But just, to me, clean and I think we've talked about it all spring, summer. Play a lot of guys. If you're up 49-0 at halftime, let's empty the bench. Let's see what we got on the not just the 2 deep, but 3 deep. You've talked all season, all camp about how you're going to rotate in the secondary. You're going to play a bunch of receivers. Let's see it.
Well, the depth chart says they're going to rotate every series,
exactly.
At every position, right? We're hoping James Pierce can earn a starting spot between now and Saturday. It's gonna be dicey if he can get to that point. But I think Eric Austin said this best on the rewind, and I tend to agree with this. The more you think about it, there's a lot of nuances, right? Finish drives, getting red zone production, clean, all those things count. I think it's just a matter of getting in and out, staying healthy, and learning about some guys behind your starters, even though there's no listed starters, learning about some of those guys and who can help you and maybe who's not ready for the moment. I think that's the biggest thing that I'm looking for. And I think that's probably, to a degree, what the coaching staff's looking for on Saturday.
I think as well something you brought up on the rewind, and we've talked about the different communications, some of the different rules in college football this year. How do coaches adapt with that? How does Nico and Joey Halsley / Josh Heupel kind of go with the in-helmet communication, as well as Tim Banks and Keenan Peely on the defensive side of the football, all that type of stuff. Austin, you want to see, and again, with an inferior opponent to kind of open things up, this is kind of a nice, the game counts, don't get me wrong, but it's kind of a nice ease into all these different changes before you hit next week with an NC State game that's going to be a bit more challenging.
Yeah, 100%. Just go in there, take care of business. The kids should be motivated. They get to play a 12:45 game. They're used to the early morning practices. So I think that helps, just kind of like you don't have to sit around and wait all day to play Chattanooga. You're playing that game fairly early in the day, and then just kind of do what you're supposed to do, and then turn your attentions to North Carolina State. They're playing on Thursday night, so you'll know kind of what they look like a little bit anyway. But by the time you play, and this is a team that again is veteran heavy at a lot of spots, not every spot. Nico's inexperienced at quarterback. You're, inexperienced at a few other places, but at a lot of spots, you're an experienced veteran team. And I think that should allow this team to kind of go in and, as Coach Heupel would say, be intentional about what they're trying to get done.
Yeah, I think the technology thing's a pretty interesting piece to all this too, guys, when you look at it. Because, I mean, you don't have to use it, right? Like they're not taking away signals, and they're not taking away the ability to have a dry erase board on the sideline if you want to. So, I mean, I think that this is a game where you figure out, with a crowd in there and with everything else that you've got going on. I mean, they've added all kinds of Wi-Fi stuff around the field and all that kind of thing. But you've got to decide after this game, like, does that work for us or does that not work for us? And how much do you talk to the quarterback and all those things? And you can work on all that in scrimmages all you want to, but in a game, it's different, even if the opponent's an inferior opponent. So I think from that standpoint, it's more of a, Rob, you come out of it like, do I want to use this stuff, or is the old tried and true way where I'm more comfortable? That type of thing is an interesting side storyline, if you will, for the coaching staff to figure out this week.
Yeah, I would guess it probably is still developing coming out of this week. I would think, just because it's so new and there's so many possibilities, so many different ways you could go with it. And I mean, I think we've all touched on this at one point or another. I almost wonder if it won't help Tennessee, because opposing defenses are going to try to use it and try to get a perfect call in, and they're just not going to have a chance. And the linebackers going to be going, wait. He's trying to talk to DBs, and boom, they snap the ball. I'm going to be curious to see if we don't see some instances of that, especially early in the season. But I just don't know how much benefit it could be to Tennessee as fast as they go. I think the bigger benefit will be after a play. Hey, did you see the safety? Watch this, the next time, or watch how the slot guy covers that. I just think they go too fast.
When you break things down specifically and looking at Nico, his second overall start, his first start at Neyland Stadium, stat-wise, again, stats aren't everything in a game like this, because Nico better not be playing all 4 quarters. But Brent, when you look at Nico, what do you want to see in your young quarterback, and what do you want to see him accomplish with the first-team offense out there, when they're out there against the Mocs?
Yeah, quick decision-making, accurate with the football. Rob said it earlier. I mean, make a play or two vertically down the field. Show the middle of the field a little bit. I think that there are going to be a lot of water cooler takes on Monday after the first weekend in college football, and some of them will be good takes, some of them will be bad takes, some will be heated over reactions. My guess is that the reaction to Nico by some people will be, well, I don't see what all the fuss is about, because I don't know how dynamic it's going to be in week 1, right? I mean, I think what fans will judge him on versus what the coaching staff are judging him on from a grading standpoint are two different things, because fans don't know everything the coaches are looking for play in and play out. But I think the biggest thing for him, be smart with the football, be smart with his body, and be efficient and get out, get done. I mean, don't have that opening drive where you go down and score, which is what Tennessee does most of the time anyway. And then the next 4 drives are kind of floundering. That's what happened a year ago, right? Yep. I mean, they go out against Virginia and they go straight down the field, 100 miles an hour. And that took them to a 4th and goal play to score the touchdown. But they go 100 miles an hour down the field, and you're like, wow, okay, this offense is not going to miss the beat. And then the next 4 drives, they kind of couldn't get out of their own way against a Virginia team that obviously wasn't very good. So I think you're looking for some early game consistency from him, efficient, AP, smart with the football, and then get a ball cap on and a set of headphones on him and stand and watch.
Yeah, no turnovers, high percentage rate when it comes to completion percentage. The biggest thing is just no turnovers, good operations. The rest of the stuff I think will take care of itself in a lot of ways. They'll get the ball to playmakers and they'll make plays and all that. I think the biggest thing is just no turnovers and good operations.
Yeah, operations is something I thought of. No false starts. It's hard to have a delayed game in this offense, but nothing like that. Make sure you got all your pre-snap checks, all that type of stuff. Typically, I mean, we saw it in Rivalry Thursday the other night, a bunch of penalties in that regard. And, in scrimmages, sometimes a little sloppy in that regard, but look clean on the operations. Rob, we expect there to be a lot of guys that play in this game. Heavy rotation from the get-go. Defense, they'll rotate the entire time. I expect offensively, wide receiver, tight end. I'm going to see a lot of guys play in this football game. Wouldn't you think?
I would think we'd see a ton. I mean, virtually everybody that's available. And I don't see a downside to that, but this staff has sometimes been reluctant to go that way. I don't want to make a big deal out of it. I mean, obviously they know what they're doing and had a bunch of success, but I mean, that has been just kind of head scratching how they're reluctant to, empty the bench in an absolute blowout, or at least, maybe it's kind of been confusing how they reluctant to do, I guess, early in the third quarter or after halftime when, it can be more in hand.
Yeah, you don't have a bunch of games on your schedule. I mean, what do you got? You think maybe 3 games on your schedule where you got a chance to play a lot of people? This being the game where you probably have the opportunity to play the most.
Mm-hmm.
Like, play those guys. You got 4 games plus a bowl game to play with in terms of whether or not you can redshirt or you don't redshirt. Like, there's no reason not to play a bunch of these guys.
And Humper, one of those games. One of those games you're talking about is UTEP, which is, the next to last game of the season. I mean, that's too late to beat. I mean, you got to use this one and you got to use Kent State, I think.
Yeah, I think you got and particularly in the line of scrimmage, Austin, for me, when you look at it, I mean, because those guys, I mean, your receiver rotation, you may be playing a lot of receivers even in the SEC games. You may rotate in the secondary pretty freely in the SEC games. I think Rodney's going to play a lot, but you also need to play some of those young guys if you're Rodney Garner, because you're losing so much at the end of this year. And on the offensive line, you're losing a lot. So when you got an opportunity to play those young guys in the trenches, for them to understand where they're at, for them to understand what they need to do to develop, for their engagement, I think you have to take full advantage of that, particularly in the trenches when these games present themselves, if it goes the way it's supposed to go. And if it doesn't, then Lord help us all.
Yeah, I'm out. But yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, 2 of the first 3 are opportunities, and Rob's right. I mean, UTEP, and then the way you've been playing Vanderbilt the last few years, you might get guys in, but again, that's the last game of the regular season. So, and that's on the road. So I don't know how that game will go, but yeah, I mean, I agree 100%. Like, some of these, opportunities are early, and you got to take advantage of them. And it's not just offensive line, defensive line. It's John Slaughter. It's Edwin Spillman. It's Mike Matthews, Braylon Staley. It's
but those guys can be engaged throughout the entire season on special teams.
You're right.
But I mean, other than playing on extra point, I mean, those young
offensive Warren's not going to be a gunner.
Do what?
You tell me Bennett Warren's not going to be a gunner?
No, he's not going to be a gunner. So how many? I mean, he doesn't have as many opportunities to get a feel for it as some of those other positions that can play on special teams. So I'm with you. All those guys count, but I think you really got to take advantage of it with your offensive line, because you're going to have to play some guys in the offensive line that are development guys. You're not going to go to the portal and get 4 new starters next year. I mean, you need some guys in your program to ascend and be ready, and for their ascension to continue, they need to get in the fire and get a feel for it. That's why you better take full advantage of it.
Bennett Warren could be the fall down guy, AP, on PAT team. That's something to keep you engaged, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd hate to burn a year of eligibility for that, but that is an option. Bowl predictions in a game like this, when you expect a lot of players to play and you expect Tennessee to win a pretty good football game by a lopsided score. Let's get some bowl predictions here. Could be individually, could be team-wise. Austin, why don't you kick us off here? Bold prediction for Saturday's game for Tennessee.
Bold prediction for Saturday's game. I'm going to go Jermod McCoy gets a pick 6. He's been active in fall camp, multiple picks, and I think that I think out of the corners, and I like Ricky Gibson a lot too, but I think Jermod McCoy is probably a little bit more aggressive right now. So I'm going to take him jumping a route and finding the checker bolts.
I've talked about big plays. I'll go with big plays. I'll set the over at, say, 3.5 50-plus yard plays, and I'll go over.
I like that.
A few years ago, I pushed in on a defensive end. I'm going to push in on another defensive end, and I'm going to say Joshua Josephs shows up off the edge early with a couple of. I think he'll have a couple of sacks in this game. I think that he's gonna have a real impact because I think all the talk's going to be about James Pierce. So give me Joshua Josephs to be a guy everybody's talking about at the water cooler on Monday.
Who do we expect to be the two back to return kicks?
I think
Cam Seldon and typically, but in a game like this, that's why I'm going to go
bold. Or special teams.
Yeah. I think they're going to catch it and put it down at the 25.
In a game like this, since we're doing bold predictions, let me get somebody to run a kickoff return back. That's pretty bold. I was going to go Deshaun Bishop leads the team in rushing, but I don't think that would be a massive bold take because we expect him to play a lot of football in this game. But I'll say some excitement in the return game. Punt and or kick in a game like this. On that note, running back.
I also have a feeling. Sorry to interrupt you, but I got a feeling that Boo Carter is going to do something. I don't know if that's a punt return. I don't know if that's an interception in the middle of the field. Something tells me Boo Carter is going to make some kind of play that's going to have everybody going, why in the world is he not playing every snap? So I think Boo Carter makes a play of some kind. I don't know what it is, but I think Boo Carter is going to be a guy that people are talking about Saturday night and Sunday morning when they go to church.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. On that running back note, what do we expect that position room to look like heading into Saturday? AP Cam Seldon looks like he's full go, ready to roll. Of course, you got Sampson, Bishop, Peyton Lewis, Khalifa Keith. In a game like this, again, kind of what do you project from that running back room?
A lot of people are going to play. If I'm Tennessee, I want Dylan Sampson getting a couple of series, exiting at 14 or 21 to nothing, and turning it over to the young guys. Like I think Cam Seldon needs to get his fresh, newly healthy body, hit a few times that matter, not thudded up in practice. I think Deshaun Bishop deserves, because he's been Mr. Bell Cow in fall camp, the chance to be a real player there. At the running back spot, at least for this first game, and then it's on him to stay on the field, right? It's on him to show that he belongs out there. And then I'm most excited to see Peyton Lewis. Yeah. I've called him for 9 months Tennessee's next great running back, and I think
you're the president of the fan club, AP. You're the president of the Peyton Lewis fan club.
You're daggone right, I am.
So let's Rob jump in here too. Over under on Cam Seldon. I'm gonna set the over under on 8 carries. You're taking the over, the under.
Under.
Yeah, I would say under. I think what you said earlier, or what AP said about, I think the better thing would be series. I think that'd be the better measuring stick. How many series he gets? But
all right, over under of 2 series.
Oh, over. I'll go
over.
You're taking the over on 2 series for Cam Seldon?
Not a lot over, but over.
Would you take the over at 3?
Push.
Yeah, I think if you put it at 2.5 over, you get a lot of action.
Cam Seldon, who is not a freshman, but Peyton Lewis, Boo Carter. Who are some other freshmen that is intriguing you guys the most to see out there? Because, again, it's one of 4 games this year that you're going to see a lot of these guys play. What's another freshman, Rob, that you're excited to watch?
And I don't know how much he's going to play, but just hearing William Inge talk about him, I mean, Spillman, again, first game, I don't know how much he's going to play, and that room is deep. But, man, Inge went hard on number 13. When he had his little media session.
Well, he compared him to Al Wilson, and
he did.
Two practices later, which was our last practice to view, I heard him literally tell Evan Spillman, "You're not going to play for a long time if you don't start doing this better and that better." So I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I was laughing just because he's pushing the kid, but he loved him up 1 minute and then smacked him in the back of the head.
But everybody wants to see Mike Matthews, don't they? Isn't that the guy, like the number one? And because you saw Squirrel play a lot and make a lot of plays as a freshman. And, they obviously, the needs were different, the depth was different, but they'll play freshmen there.
Can't you see Spillman playing like linebacker in the fourth quarter and have like 3 tackles in a row and single-handedly end a series because Chattanooga is like trying to go home and get the game over with and not get a bunch of guys beat up? And I mean, he just
he
does a little bit of what James Pierce did his freshman year. We racked up a couple of sacks, and that late and kind of mop up duty there. I can totally see that. I think Spillman. I think people are going to know Spillman's name maybe on the opening kickoff, because I think that he's going to be a guy who makes some special teams play. I think you're going to know he's on the field before he ever lines up on defense.
I'm intrigued to see what a guy like Jordan Ross looks like. Caleb Herring had a minor role last year. Obviously didn't play an awful lot because you had Roman Harrison, James Pierce, Joshua Josephs, and that's kind of what Ross is going to be like this year. And of course he wasn't here in spring, so it's about playing catch up and all that. But a game like this, I'm intrigued to see what he looks like, because he's one of the first 5 off the bus for sure.
Well, he's got 40 more pounds on Caleb Herring this time last year.
Yeah, he does for sure. Here's the other thing too, Austin. I wonder if you're Chattanooga, we're all talking about like Tennessee's going to have 150 snaps to play with all these bodies to run around. I mean, does Chattanooga just totally take the air out of this thing and milk the play clock down and try to limit possessions and shorten the game and then some of the stuff we're talking about never really materializes because you just don't have as many opportunities or as many possessions as you thought you were going to have?
The next opener that goes how we think it's going to go will be the first opener to go how we think it's going to go.
Well said.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they'll try. Now, I think for Tennessee, you ask what I want to see out of Tennessee or certain guys on defense. You want to see them get off the field.
Great point.
Not let Chattanooga of all teams 3rd and 9 and they pick up 11. 3rd and 7 and they
give up a screen or a swing pass on 3rd and 8 for 10 yards.
Off the field.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's probably from a defensive standpoint, that's probably the biggest thing anybody should want to see is just, are they getting off the field on 3rd down? How efficient is this defense by not allowing drives to be extended? Do they end it and get off the field the way they're supposed to? Because it's pretty clear Tim Banks likes his defense. I'm not saying he's ever been capped in negativity, but he's pretty level-headed. But he's been pretty glowing about this defense for a while now. He seems to really like his secondary. He likes his depth overall. Do they go out and play with the results that he's kind of presented everybody like they're going to have in his preseason talks?
Tennessee and Chattanooga, that's coming up on Saturday, 12:45 Eastern Time kickoff, and it'll be on the SEC Network. We'll have all the coverage, of course, leading up to kickoff right here during the game and after at Volquest.com. Hey, we'll talk a little recruiting and some more on the season openers coming up next. But first, I do want to remind you guys about our friends over at Game Time. You can download the Game Time app, create an account, and put in the promo code ON3, and you're going to get $20 off your first purchase. You're probably wondering, what is Game Time? Well, it's a place where you can buy tickets to events in your area. It could be sporting events, could be comedy shows, could be concerts, could be whatever's going on at Thompson Bowling Arena at the Food City Center, the Tennessee Smokies, and Kodak. You can buy tickets to events in your area by searching the Game Time app. And they've got all-in pricing where you can toggle. It's a feature where you can put your mouse over and toggle that shows the price up front, no surprise fees at checkout. You can have views of your seats before you pay so you know exactly what you're looking for. They've got the lowest price guarantee where Game Time, they're going to credit you 110% of the difference if you find a cheaper ticket somewhere else in the same section outside of the Game Time app. Plus, they've got the best customer service, the most flexible customer service in the ticketing industry. All that and more is at the Game Time app. And if you wait and procrastinate, sometimes the tickets are a little bit cheaper the closer you get to the event. So buy your tickets at the season opener if you haven't already. Buy your tickets to other Tennessee football games this year on the Game Time app. Download the app, put in the promo code ON3. You're going to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create that account, put in the promo code ON3, and get $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Severe weather can strike at any time in East Tennessee, and Mother Nature can do severe damage to the first and most important line of defense that you and your family have against Mother Nature, and that is your roof. Whenever she strikes, make sure that you call the people that I call. Make sure you trust the people that I trust, and that's my friends at Exterior Home Solutions, because they're more than friends, they're truly family.
And as always, a big time thank you to our friends over at Exterior Home Solutions for making us their presenting sponsor here of the show. That is 865-524-5888. You can visit them online at exteriorhomesolutions.com as well. So all the focus on the start of the football season, Tennessee, UTC, Tennessee, NC State. But Tennessee also got another commitment on Friday, the 24th of this class, Austin Price. So my question for you is, what's next in terms of recruiting for this Tennessee football team?
Well, Tennessee would love to add an interior defensive lineman. They'd love to add a running back, another running back, if the right one falls their way. And so we'll be interested to kind of see where they go. They're looking at a couple of different kids. DeJuan Morris, obviously, is one they'd love to get to campus here early in the football season. Potentially bring him back for an official visit in maybe October, November. December time range, but electric kid did not get to play a whole lot the other night. Got hurt, early in the game there for Oakland, and hopefully he'll be able to get back out on the field pretty soon. But a kid that's electric with the ball in his hands, committed to Southern Cal. You look at him 5'10", he's probably about $190 right now, and can really go shifty, quick, and got a burst. So that would be a big one to flip if you're Josh Heupel and Darrell Sims.
Tennessee gets Onis Conabani, no surprise. Of course, if you're paying attention to you and Matt over the last couple of weeks, another versatile defensive back picks Tennessee over Florida State. What's the makeup of him, and what's kind of the projection down the line for Onis in this secondary?
He's a big, long corner. He's a physical guy. Again, originally from France and England, spent time in both places. I think he's still very raw. So I don't think he's coming in next year and starting for your football team, but I think there's a lot of upside for Onis. I think he can be really good. I think it's just a matter of, again, like getting here and getting developed. And I think that, he has some traits that you just can't teach. And so you got to get him here. You got to develop those traits and see where it goes. But again, a nice addition to the secondary to go along with a handful of guys they have committed in the secondary already.
AP, when you look at this thing in terms of down the stretch here, running back obviously makes a lot of sense. Would they still flirt with defensive linemen? Is there another position they would flirt with, or is this hold pat and see where you're at in the transfer portal, what your numbers look like there, or is this such a fluid situation there is really no answer outside of maybe running back for what they would do at other positions if guys were available that they liked?
A quality interior defensive lineman, I think they would go hard on. Outside of that, I think it would be, if you're talking about a best available situation, like let's say another high-end linebacker called them, maybe they listen, just because you're not going to turn down good players. Now, everybody's talked about, Will Fong put out there about potentially Ty Jackson. I think Ty Jackson would like to visit Tennessee. A lot of kids like to visit Tennessee to try to drive their NIL price up because, that's the whole notion out there, right? I'm not sure where Tennessee's at in that, though. I think Tennessee's pretty happy with a couple of kids they have committed at the linebacker spot. Again, if Ty Jackson wanted to come, would Tennessee take him? I'm sure they would, but I think it'd be under the right circumstances. And I would say that probably about a handful of positions if the right guy wanted to come.
And I want to ask this too. I mean, this is for Austin, but everybody else can jump in there. If this move passes that eliminates the spring transfer portal window, which is what they're talking, which is what's being talked about, does that increase good players taking a chance? Does that and going in the portal, does that slow down numbers of guys going in the portal? Does it change anything about the December window if you eliminate the spring window? Does it change anything coaches are looking at, and does it change the players' perspective of the transfer windows or portal in any way, shape, or form?
I think what it'll do is it'll make people be a little more, firm with what they want to do. The players that just aren't sure that I might want to stick around, see what it's like in the spring. I think you're going to see more people go, you got to go now. You can't, there's not that option. And we can't risk you getting to spring and then being fourth on the depth chart. And coaches, if that passes, coaches would almost, they're going to do whatever it takes to keep the kid there. So I think you probably would see an influx of more kids to the portal in the winter. But I mean, let's face it. I mean, most of your good players that are going to move around are going to go in the wintertime anyway. They're not going to be waiting until spring. Very few, left after spring. So, but what it does do is it eliminates having to re-recruit your players during February, March, April, and May. And once that window in the winter it comes and goes.
This is my roster.
This is my roster.
I was going to say, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but as you pointed out, Austin, I mean, most of your heavy hitters are going to be going in December.
It also means you don't get to go and try to fill a hole in the spring, though, too. So, I mean, it works both ways.
Yeah. I just feel like, I mean, the amount of movement in the spring window is just so insignificant in terms of what you see in December anyway. There's not a whole lot. I mean, there's still some, don't get me wrong, but it feels like it's already just the massive movement is already happening in December. So numbers wise, maybe it doesn't, if it were to pass, maybe it wouldn't be affected all that much. But as you guys said, I mean, your roster will be in place, firm, boom, by January. And that's got to help coaches out.
Look at Elijah Herring. Elijah Herring would be stuck with Tennessee right now. He wouldn't have been able to go to Memphis.
Yeah, but you look at a couple years earlier, Tennessee might have encouraged Kamal Haddon to depart at the end of the regular season, and he comes out of spring as their best corner and was their best corner till he got hurt a year ago. I just think that I don't think that's a spring portal, and Rob, you can jump in here too, but anyway, I just don't think that the spring portal is significant enough that you even really need to have this discussion about closing it. I mean, maybe it's affecting smaller schools. Okay, maybe it's got an impact on that. I just don't feel like the spring portal has really bothered Tennessee or has really greatly enhanced Tennessee the last couple of years. And maybe it has somewhere at other schools, but I just don't see a whole lot of movement there for this to be like a major thing that you got to get this done. It's a big deal to close that second window.
Yeah, I mean, I don't either because, I mean, kids, if you're wanting to go somewhere and play next year, your chances are so, greatly enhanced. You got to be there for spring practice. I mean, otherwise you're really fighting an uphill battle. So, I mean, there's always going to be exceptions. I mean, like AP mentioned Elijah Herring. I mean, but I'm with you guys. It does not seem like a big enough deal to me to really require legislation. But I can also see that I bet that's some peace of mind for them. For what AP just said, you don't feel like you have to recruit your players, the whole spring.
I'll tell you the one position it would affect, in my opinion, would be quarterback. Because I think
they can go through a spring competition.
Correct.
If you lose it, I'm out of here.
Yep.
Yeah, I can totally see that.
Yeah.
You guys remember entering last year?
Which actually would be good for coaches. I mean, like, let's say you get to 2026, spring of 26. Nico is off to the NFL. He's played well in 2 years, and he's gone. Let's play the theories here, right? And it's Merklinger, and it's George, and it's Faison. After spring practice, you're getting to keep all those guys. That's why it's going to be interesting to see if this even passes, 1. 2, because if it does pass, are there going to be legal challenges to it?
That's what I was going to say.
Legal challenges to everything.
And when's the last time the NCAA won one of those things?
They don't. I still think, Eric, you could leave the windows in there, leave the window in there if you wanted to. And I understand where coaches are coming from. I want to know what my roster looks like. But I think you have to put it's more important to put legislation in to not allow what Tyler Barron did. And I'm not picking on Tyler Barron, but I'm using him as an example. You shouldn't finish in November and be on your third team by August. No. Or even your second team. I think wherever you transfer to, you got to go through that football season before you can transfer again. That's a rule I would like to see in place. I think this idea that, okay, we got a guy here in January and we NIL'd and we did whatever we need to do. Now he goes through spring practice. I've got to re-recruit him again because he might get a better deal somewhere else, or he's threatening to leave here or there. I think that's the thing that is more problematic than it is a guy losing a position battle in spring practice and deciding to leave.
Yeah, with Tyler, he never officially enrolled at Ole Miss, right? He committed. Like, he made headlines that way. But
he moved into an apartment.
Okay.
But he never went to class, so he was never technically an Ole Miss rep. Yeah, that's correct.
But like he was at Louisville, he practiced, went through spring practice and all that. So like 3 schools. Kind of on that quarterback note, remember going into last year during that spring window, all the talk was about Grace McCall. He was going to enter the transfer portal in that spring window and go to a contender. Obviously that didn't happen. He transferred a year later and now is at NC State. So be intrigued to see what that kind of looks like. As we kind of wrap up this edition of the podcast, talked a lot about Tennessee leading into the UTC game, and of course we'll have coverage throughout the rest of the week. But what entices you guys about the rest of the SEC this week? You got Arkansas playing Pine Bluff, Missouri, Murray State, Oklahoma Temple, Texas hosting Colorado State. You got a big one, Clemson and Georgia, Vanderbilt VT. Of course, you got another big one, Florida, Miami, South Carolina, Old Dominion, Mississippi State, Eastern Kentucky. A&M, Notre Dame, that's a big one. Anything else around the league, Brent, that it kind of excites you a little bit?
Well, I mean, obviously not any of those other payday games. I don't think jumps out at you as exciting. No offense to Walt Wells taking a paycheck by playing Mississippi State, but I'm fascinated to see what Florida Miami looks like because I think there's a lot of pressure on both of those staffs. What does one game mean for them? Fair or not fair? What does that mean? So that one jumps off the page at me. The USC LSU game that takes place as well, I think is a pretty fascinating game because who's fixed and who's not fixed. That way, what does A&M look like against Notre Dame? I think those two games are really intriguing because how much better is LSU on defense with a new defensive coordinator, and where is A&M after a disastrous last year against Notre Dame? I mean, I think those two kind of jump out of me. Don't you just think though, AP, there's going to be one game that's supposed to be a blowout game that you're sitting there in the third quarter and you're like, why is Alabama A&M in the game with Auburn, or why is Western Kentucky? I mean, somebody's going to be into a game in the second half that everybody's going to go, "Oh, wait a minute, what does that mean? For this team, or why is this happening?" Because that typically seems to happen to open the season every year in this league, right?
Go ahead, Ubs. You want to say it? Why is Chattanooga playing with the Vols? Yeah, I mean, I think that could be happening. It could be EKU at Mississippi State. It could be Southern Miss and Kentucky. The two games that stick out for me, I really want to sit back and watch. Of course, we can't. We'll be there at our own game. But, I really want to watch Georgia just skull drag, the Clemson Tigers. Because I think that's going down in the worst way. And then the other one for me is Arkansas, Oklahoma State. Because if you're Tennessee, I think you want Arkansas to lose this game. You want them to lose to Auburn. You want them to lose to A&M. All games before you play Arkansas on the road because you don't want Arkansas to have any momentum. Sam's already on the hot seat. You would like that thing to go ahead and just be on life support by the time you roll to Fayetteville. Just because road games are road games. You're a better team than Arkansas, but road games are road games. So
that's not this week, AP.
What's that? Was that next week?
Yeah, that's probably next week. They play Arkansas Pine Bluff this week.
Okay, sorry. You were scrolling down, and I guess you went too far because I saw.
Yeah. Okie State's the next week. Yeah.
Okay, well, next week, the same thing applies. But
same thing applies.
I can't believe nobody's. I want to see Jackson or Arnold. I mean, I know Temple's not going to be the biggest test out there, but I mean, the reports have been kind of lukewarm, have they not, about how he's segueing into the starting job?
Well, they got a young offensive line, and they got a quarterback who's thrown some interceptions. So exactly, what does that look like? I don't think they're going to lose that game to Temple.
No.
But what do they look like? Because that's going to be it's going to be overreaction Monday, right, or Tuesday or whatever for so many. This team's done. They're over and this that or. If Colorado State scores some points on Texas, it's going to be about, Texas they're vulnerable, right? I mean, Tennessee fans remember the 90s. How many years did Spurrier beat somebody the first week and you go, Florida's gettable. And then the next thing you know, you play them and they're throwing post corners for touchdowns all day long on Tennessee and handling Tennessee that way. So there'll be some overreaction. I'm just curious to see which of these SEC teams just is really sluggish against a team that they're heavily favored against.
Maybe that's Oklahoma. South Carolina.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know, but typically there's at least one. I'm going to be fascinated to see who that one is, and then I think Miami and Florida.
That's the game I'm looking at.
And then SC and LSU, because I'm not sure if LSU's. I don't know what LSU is. I know a lot of people are bullish on them and they really like them. What exactly is LSU? Have they fixed that defense that was so problematic a year ago that required Jaden Daniels to win every game for him on his own? It felt like.
I mean, how big of a game is this for Florida? I mean, you're hosting Miami. Miami's technically a road favorite by 2.5. You know the schedule. In a couple weeks, you got A&M, but that's at home. That's a game that I think Florida could probably handle. Mississippi State on the road, I think Florida can win that game. But 2 weeks after that, you go to Neyland, and then of course you finish the way you do. 2 weeks after that, Georgia at Texas, LSU, Ole Miss at Florida State. I mean, a lot of people are liking the Gators at home against Miami. New quarterback for Miami. How do you handle all the atmosphere? I think that one's going to be really intriguing. And then just for Florida in general, you need wins in the worst way because you're not going to have a whole lot to close the year. So how do the Gators look like in that game? How does Graham Mertz look like? I think that's one to pay attention to.
Well, I think Florida can see some early season momentum, particularly if you win this one. There's a lot of Florida people think they could be undefeated when they come to Knoxville if they can take care of Miami at home and give them some juice going that way and sort of settle all the Billy Napier talk down.
They could also lose to Miami and then turn around and lose to UCF.
They could.
So, I mean, it could go one way or the other.
Absolutely. I don't think just because you beat Miami, you're suddenly in great shape to be undefeated. You still got a lot of work to do there. I mean, you could be 2-0, you could be 0-2. It would not be out of the realm of possibility. I just think when you're thought to be at best a 500 team, Rob, there's no given on any Saturday and how well did they play. And then I don't think there's a lot of talk and we don't follow it as closely, but I mean, Mario Cristobal, that's just not gone well down there, right? I mean, they've turned that roster over with a bunch of transfers. I think there's as much pressure on him as there is Billy Napier.
There is 100%.
And he's getting as much NIL, chatter as anybody, out of the gate, Miami. Well, I think that's certainly faded, over the past couple of years, but they've made as big of a splash as anybody in the early going with that. And nothing's really come of it.
And the Monday overreaction out of that Clemson Georgia game is going to be some fun overreaction from both sides of that deal.
Do you see where Dabo's not taking live calls on his coach's show anymore this year? Just saw that tweet today.
Yeah.
Would you say that Tyler won that battle, Rob?
I think so.
We got to be. It'll be one of those where, I just see it only going one way. I just don't think Clemson can play with them, and I think I don't know if it's as bad as when they played Florida State in the Orange Bowl, but I think that Georgia wins this thing by at least 3 scores.
I'm just glad we got football games.
Just turned out the light. He just turned out the lights on Dabo Swinney over there. Is what he
did.
That was good.
Over.
Well done. Well done. I'm just glad we have football games to talk about and watch. There's going to be some good ones this weekend for sure. As Andy was talking about on the Rocky Top Rewind, water cooler talk's going to be aplenty here on that Monday and Tuesday morning. And even with Tennessee, even though this game's not supposed to be a big game, we get to see what this first iteration of Tennessee looks like in 24. We get to see these young guys, and we get to see kind of where they are before you head to a neutral site for a big game against NC State. Loads to get into this week. We're back into our game week coverage. We got the Rocky Top Roundtable coming up midweek. Matt's high school recruiting podcast will be there. The Stock Report. First Glance is up last night. Picks, 10 things I think, all that and more coming up this week as we get you set for Tennessee and UTC. And right now, today is the last day, so you need to take advantage of this right now. Our best sale of the year. 50% off an annual membership by putting in the promo code Kickoff24. 50% off with the promo code Kickoff24. This deal is going to end after today, so take advantage of it right now. And really, the bang for their buck's incredible at Volquest.com right now, Brent Hubbs.
Yeah, there's no ore in the depth chart of coverage of Tennessee. We're a starter. Volquest is a starter. So if you're not a part, you need to take full advantage of it and settle in for what's going to be a lively season, a season of great anticipation, and we'll see how it all plays out. That's why you line up and play every Saturday, and we're going to cover every nook and cranny of it along the way. a ton of recruiting stuff as well. I've said this, if you're a recruiting fan and you weren't following us and you weren't a member of the site this summer, then you weren't sure what was going to happen on certain days when press conferences were happening. But if you were a member of the site, you knew exactly what was going to happen in the recruiting world. So there's never been a better time to be a part of the Volquest family, and I encourage everybody out there to take advantage of this promo, because we're not going to do this thing on a regular basis. So take advantage of this great deal and a great opportunity in front of you, and be a part of the General's Quarters of Volquest. A lot of fun.
Again, that is 50% off by putting in that promo code KICKOFF24, 50% off annual memberships by putting the promo code KICKOFF24. This sale is going to end after today, so take advantage of it right now. Big thanks, as always, to our friends over at Exterior Home Solutions for being the presenting sponsor of this podcast, 865-524-5888, and they've been local and trusted since 1999. For Rob Lewis, Austin Price, Brent Hubbs, I'm Eric Kane. Appreciate you guys for joining us here on the Tuesday Volquest Podcast.